honored to be here amongst you. I'm going to start this talk by asking you to think back to that day, 9/11, 10 years ago, and the tragedy that happened. Okay, quickly, as you're thinking back, were any of you happy or celebrating the tragedy that happened?
I remember it very clearly. I went over to a friend of mine's house and we
Right. Well, just hold that memory because right after that happened, you know, watching and my mother-in-law had called me the second that something started happening. She's in Ohio, and she, knowing that I am a researcher on these kind of things, she called. And so I started watching on the television as soon as something happened. And it's devastating. It was emotionally traumatizing. And in order to get a little bit of distance from the trauma, I went out from watching the Twin Towers be attacked, and I picked a big bowl of blackberries just to try to get some equilibrium tonight. But it wasn't long before I started writing. And I started asking questions, and I started putting these questions on the internet. And as I did so, the reaction from the media, as well as individuals out there, they began to attack not only me, but other people like myself that were asking questions as to who and what actually happened. What was really going on here? And so I'm quoting to you from our local Oregonian. It says, on the 19th, they started attacking people like myself. They said, rumors are particularly apt to circulate in a climate of fear, particularly on the internet. And then they say, attacks give extremists new ammunition. The extreme right and the extreme left have some extreme similarities, including their hatred for federal and international governments, said Randy Blazak, a professor of sociology at Portland State University and an expert on U.S. hate groups. So it is not surprising that extremes from both ends could see something positive from these attacks. And then the paper goes on to say, while publicly professing sympathy for the innocent victims of the tragedy, they privately reveled in the attack on the World Trade Center. How incredible. You take someone like me, and I really feel the pain of people, and I was devastated. I was hurting. I'm sure the rest of you were in a lot of pain too. You know, recently I went to an international Japanese church because I wanted to hear a sermon in Japanese, and they were talking about the Fukushima disaster and all that's happening in Japan. I could barely sit through the sermon because I just wanted to cry so much over what's happening over there, you know. These traumas are devastating to us. And then for somebody in the news media, did any of you get a call right after 9/11 and somebody say, how did you feel about this? No, but they turn it on. They decide to defend the system and then demonize us by saying, oh, these heartless people out there that are asking questions. You and I, we were asking questions to find out who the real criminals were, what had really happened, and the news media was covering it up and attacking us as being heartless. Absolutely amazing. So within a few days, right after they wrote this attack on people, they never called me and asked how I felt, but they're going to say that I'm heartless, that I was celebrating over this. So this is something I put out over the internet. I said, during the first month following the 9/11 crimes, I saw many intelligent, good questions come over the internet about the crime. Dozens of internet articles have asked important, insightful questions to help us solve the crimes of the 9/11 tragedy, with the establishment newspapers and other media have ignored and appear trying to cover up. In fact, I know from some newsmen that their bosses have given instructions to their writers not to cover certain important facts and questions and lines of inquiry. How dare they hide things from you about the biggest crime so far in the 21st century? You have a right to know these things. If America was attacked and America is still the target, then don't you have a right to know who attacked you, how they attacked and why? If Osama bin Laden attacked America, not our government, not a battleship, but the man in the street, you and I, then don't we, the intended victims, have a right to know what our would-be killer wants to say to us? And let's get this fact straight. Whether Osama bin Laden carried out the attack on the World Trade Center or not, he has clearly declared war on all of Americans, skipping them. Because the establishment news is covering up the facts about the 9/11 tragedy, because they are encouraging you not to go to the internet for answers and to disregard anything anti-government extremists would say, I think you should read the kind of questions the news media should have asked but won't. The fact that these obvious questions are not being asked by the establishment media makes them accomplices to the crime. They are covering up a crime and deserve to be indicted by the American people. And for those who are legalists, yes, Black's Law Dictionary says it is possible to be an accomplice to a crime by helping after the crime is committed. They put me in prison for 8 years for allegedly knowing about a bank robbery. Well, let's extend that thinking. If there were people that knowingly knew about this crime or are accomplices by covering it up, shouldn't we have the same legal thinking applied to these people?
Should be prosecuted.
Yes, the news media should be prosecuted as accomplices for covering up one of the biggest crimes that ever happened. Now, today, this is kind of a general outline of some of the things we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss the process. We're going to discuss some basic symbols. I've been locked up. I was asked to give this talk on the symbols and meaning of the 9/11 attack, and I agreed to it. But I also realized that I lacked one key ingredient. I don't know what my audience knows. It's hard to speak to an audience without knowing where they're at. So you're going to have to help me with this. We're going to work on this together. Because I don't want to come up here and insult your intelligence and pretend like I know all this stuff and you don't. You may know plenty more than I do. Okay, hold your comments until after the talk, because this is being videotaped, and we got to do things in an orderly fashion. Okay? So let's look at one of the most basic symbols that we have involved in this thing. Come over here, maybe. Towers. What does a tower symbolize?
Power.
Power?
Financial power.
Power?
That's what I was saying.
Just towers in general.
Ballot symbol.
Pardon me?
Ballot symbol.
Ballot symbol?
Tarot card.
It's a tarot card of it, yeah.
Church.
Church.
A symbol.
Okay.
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy?
Ballot.
Tower of Babel. Okay.
Represent a social strata.
Here, come over here. We've got
Social strata.
okay, and now I want to share some of my hold your comments while I put a few more up here. I think that it's important that we get the concept of security and protection in here, because towers towers throughout history have represented or symbolized security and protection. That's at a subconscious level what people think of when they think of a tower, is they think of security and protection. For millennia, people have used towers as a way to protect themselves. That's why you have the Jehovah's Witnesses magazine, the Watchtower, right? It's there to protect people. So it's to protect and warn. To protect and warn. Okay. And it's a formable building. Let's write that down here because abbreviate this. And it's similar to a house. So where I'm going with this is, let's go back to this key thing here I've said here, security and protection. And as an archetype of the mind, we're talking about the kind of archetypes that people that try to get into the mind, the subconscious would be thinking about. As an archetype of the mind, if you destroy a tower, you're destroying somebody's security and protection. Destruction, I don't know if this is in the way of the camera, but destruction of one's security and protection. Okay? I think everybody here probably would agree with me that there was a reason that these targets were picked. Is there anyone who thinks that these were random? No. They were not random. They were meant to be iconic. In other words, these targets were picked out to support myths and images that the people that designed this attack wanted people to get. Okay? And so they're wanting people to feel a sense of insecurity and that their protection is coming. Okay, let's... Okay.
You can do more paper on the wall.
I'm going to stick some paper over
Yeah.
this because
How slick is this new paper?
this will work. Erase the board here. I don't even have to erase. This is great.
You know, it should be for that.
Okay.
One thing you did put down, like a formidable structure, and also a social strategy.
Okay. So let's go to the next thing, which is twin towers. We're not just dealing with a tower, but we've got twin towers. So now we've got a whole new set of icons or symbols or symbolic meaning here. So what does twin tower evoke from you? What is that symbolic of?
Double tower.
Pillars.
Yeah.
Exactly. It represents other pillars.
Yeah.
Pillars is a good summary because there's a lots of pillars. Let's see if I can say some of the pillars. We will, we've got, let's see if I can. Jochan and Boaz are the names that they give some Masonic twin pillars. And there's the twin pillars. There's the twin pillars of Hercules. And the twin pillars of Hercules has a history in itself, because that was taken as